My name is Claire Monroe. I'm 32 years old. And this is how I took revenge on the person who destroyed my voice, my marriage, and almost my sanity. I used to be a publicist, the kind who could walk into any room and make people listen. I made people believe in people, but I couldn't even get my own husband to believe in me. The first time I realized something was wrong was when I found a photo in his phone. It wasn't explicit, it was worse, intimate. A picture of his assistant, Lily, asleep on our couch, her hair tied up like she belonged there, my coffee mug in her hand, my world in her grasp. But I said nothing. Not yet. Not until I was sure. And then, just 2 weeks later, my boss called me into his office. He said someone had submitted a formal complaint about my verbal aggression, that I intimidated staff and made them fear for their safety. I was blindsided. My husband, Michael, my own husband, just said, "You've been stressed lately. Maybe they're right." I didn't lose my job that day. I lost my voice. I stopped defending myself. I started listening. And what I heard ruined everything. Whispers at work, my name dropped in hushed tones, conversations halting when I entered the break room. HR called me in again a week later with another report, this time more serious. Same accusations, different wording, still anonymous. My spotless record suddenly smeared with shadow. I'd always been firm, not cruel, efficient, not cold. But the narrative had already shifted, and I was cast as the villain in my own story. At home, Michael was suddenly working late more often. His scent changed. So did his silence. He stopped asking me about my day. When I brought up Lily, carefully, gently, he waved me off like I was a child poking at shadows. "She's my assistant," he said. "Stop making things up." But it wasn't just Lily. One night I found an email, unsigned but unmistakable, forwarded to my company's leadership, accusing me of workplace bullying and unethical conduct. There were attachments, cherry picked video clips, partial recordings of meetings, and screenshots taken out of context. Someone was constructing a case against me, and they were good at it. Too good. It wasn't just personal, it was strategic. I was being erased, silently, systematically. I knew two things then. First, I was being set up, professionally and personally. And second, Lily wasn't just sleeping with my husband. She was replacing me, my job, my home, my life. It wasn't enough for her to take what I had. She needed to make sure I couldn't come back for it. So I stopped reacting. I smiled. I played the part. And I planned. Because I knew something they didn't. They'd taken everything from me. Everything but my ability to tell a story. And I was about to tell the most devastating one of all. The truth. But not just in words. In ruin. I grew up in a house where silence meant safety. My father had a temper, and my mother had her coping mechanisms. She'd retreat to the garden with a glass of wine or disappear behind closed doors with the TV turned up too loud. I learned to tiptoe. I learned to observe. But I also learned to strategize, quietly, calculating when to speak, when to vanish, when to pretend everything was fine. Survival was a performance. I became very good at it. By the time I was 18, I knew I needed out. Not just out of the house, out of the pattern, the fear, the constant analysis of what version of myself would be safest to wear. I didn't want to shrink. I wanted to build. So I did. I moved to New York at 23 with a half-paid internship, a chipped suitcase, and a voice that could turn almost anything into gold. Except, as I'd later learn, my own truth. PR became my weapon and my armor. I spun chaos into narrative, scandal into sympathy. I worked 15-hour days, said yes when others blinked, learned the rules just to break them better. I clawed my way into PR like a knife through a locked door. Within 5 years, I had my own roster of high profile clients and a reputation I was damn proud of. Articulate, respected, even feared. People listened when I spoke. They asked for me by name. I was the fixer, the fire putter outer, the image rehab queen. That's how I met Michael. He wasn't like the men I usually met in this city, the ones who only heard their own voice. Michael was charming, grounded, thoughtful, or so he seemed, a steady voice in the noise of my life. He asked me about my work and actually listened. He made space for me, or at least I thought he did. We married when I was 27. Small ceremony, rooftop skyline, just close friends. I wore my mother's earrings, the only beautiful thing she ever passed down to me. I remember thinking, I made it. I found peace. We didn't just build a marriage, we built a brand. I helped him launch his consulting firm, introduced him to the right people, gave him the words he didn't know he needed, rewrote his bios, designed his pitches, smoothed out his image until people started saying he was the sharp one in the relationship. That was fine. That was the job. I gave him everything, my network, my mind, my time. He used to say he admired how strong I was. But strength only flatters a man until it starts to outshine him. Strong women make excellent tools until they stop being convenient, until they expect something back. That's when the cracks start forming. The little comments, the jokes with a blade in them, the praise that sounds like warning. I didn't see it then, or maybe I didn't want to. Lily started at his company the year before everything imploded. 23, fresh out of college, blonde, bubbly, bright-eyed, always grateful to learn from him. The kind of girl who laughs too loudly at mediocre jokes and calls herself just lucky to be here. I thought she was harmless. I'd seen girls like her come and go a dozen times, eager, inexperienced, harmless. But Lily wasn't harmless. She watched. She learned. She absorbed every detail of my life like it was a script she intended to steal. The coffee order Michael never remembered. The playlists I made for his morning runs. The way I structured my emails, smoothed over conflict, made allies out of enemies. And bit by bit, she started mirroring it all, with her name at the top instead of mine. She started slipping into conversations I wasn't invited to, offering input on projects I'd laid the foundation for. Michael brushed it off, said she was just enthusiastic, that she reminded him of me when I was younger. I should have known that was code for before you got difficult. Then came the texts, one-liners I wasn't meant to see, emojis where there shouldn't be emojis, the shift in how he looked at his phone, the way he turned it over when I entered the room. I still didn't confront him. I didn't want to become the cliché, the jealous wife, the insecure professional. So I played it cool, kept my eyes open, collected my own evidence. Because deep down, I recognized the pattern. This wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure. She wasn't sleeping with him for love. She was replacing me, strategically, piece by piece, at work, at home, in his life. And I don't think Michael even realized it was happening. Or maybe he did. Maybe he liked it. The slow rebranding of his world into something easier to manage, something younger, softer, more obedient. But I wasn't raised to be obedient. I was raised to survive. So I waited. I let them think I was unraveling. I let them build their story. The ambitious aging wife who couldn't keep up. The angry publicist whose temper finally caught up to her. They were writing me out. But they forgot one thing. I'm the one who writes the ending. And I'd already started drafting it. Michael came home late. He said he was consulting on a rebrand. The irony didn't hit me until later, that he was rebranding his life, starting with the part that didn't fit his new image. Me. He looked different, not drastically, subtly. Slim fit shirts he used to mock, a new cologne I didn't buy, hair pushed back just the way I used to style it for him. Only now it smelled faintly like lily of the valley. Ironic again. And then there were the phrases, the language, the pitch of his voice, the clever reframing of uncomfortable truths. I heard myself in him, my words, my tactics, but stripped of intent and repackaged in a way that made my skin crawl. Lily was mimicking me, and Michael was loving it. She was becoming me, just the curated version. No complexity, no challenge, a highlight reel without the depth. And somehow, that seemed to be all he wanted now. But the real breaking point wasn't personal. It was professional. My boss pulled me into a meeting, tense, clipped. "There's a formal investigation," he said, "about the complaint." He looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to be having this conversation with someone like me, someone who was supposed to be untouchable. I sat there, listening to him read off details, exact phrases I'd supposedly said, time-stamped incidents, even private context, the kind of things I only ever said behind closed doors in exhaustion to one person, Michael. It hit me like a cold slap. This wasn't just betrayal. This was sabotage. When I got home that night, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even speak. I just stared at him, this man I had built a life with, and asked very calmly, "Did you tell someone about the complaints at work?" He blinked. "Claire, sometimes the way you talk to people, it's not okay." That was it. That's what he offered me. Not denial, not outrage, not confusion, just confirmation wrapped in judgment, a rehearsed deflection, a line meant to make me question myself, but I didn't question anything anymore. After he fell asleep, I made a cup of tea I didn't drink and sat in front of our shared desktop. I plugged in a flash drive, the same one I used to back up client decks, and started copying every file from our shared Google Drive. Emails, calendar entries, internal memos from his firm, invoices, notes, meeting transcriptions. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I found it. A folder, tucked inside a maze of nested directories, buried like a dead thing. L transition plan. I opened it. What I saw made my vision go white with heat. Notes, spreadsheets, drafted emails, slides from a presentation titled Operational Risk Mitigation, Phase Out Strategy. But it wasn't just corporate jargon. It was a blueprint. How to transfer clients to L without alerting the C. Shift access to joint accounts gradually. Start as business expenses. Prep L to assume public-facing comms. Practice key phrases. Minimize C's presence at events. Rationale, needs rest, burnout, etc. I read it over and over again, not because I couldn't believe it, but because I could. And it finally made everything make sense. The changes, the distance, the anonymous complaints, the subtle gaslighting, the convenient positioning of Lily as the solution to the problem I had become. This wasn't some passionate, messy affair. This was a calculated exit plan, a hostile takeover of my life. And Michael, the man who once told me I was his compass, was behind it. He wasn't just cheating, he was erasing me. The version of me they wanted to replace was gone already, by their estimation. All that was left was to push the body out of the room, quietly, legally, cleanly. But they underestimated one thing. You can't kill a story that hasn't finished telling itself. They wanted me quiet. They wanted me gone. But what they'd done, what he had done, had given me everything I needed. I had evidence, I had motive, I had nothing left to lose. And the thing about women like me, the ones they try to bury, is that we don't go quietly. We dig our way out and we come back with matches. I moved out the next week. No fight, no screaming, just silence. The kind that comes with certainty, the kind that unnerves. I left the key on the counter, packed my essentials into a single suitcase, my laptop, my backup drives, my wedding ring still warm from my finger. I left in his sock drawer. He didn't chase me. He didn't even text. By the time I got to the sublet, a one-bedroom above a florist in Carroll Gardens, I already knew what I'd find. Our joint bank accounts, frozen. My name, quietly removed from the LLC we built together. The passwords changed on our project management platforms. Email access revoked. Every digital fingerprint I had on the company scrubbed like I'd never existed. I had nothing. No income, no home, no career. And somehow, I wasn't surprised. Because that's what they do to women like me. They don't just push you out. They make it look like you were never there to begin with. So I did what I do best. I listened, I watched, I planned. I started with what I knew. Lily was stepping into my role, not just professionally, but narratively. She wasn't just becoming the new face of the firm. She was presenting herself as me, using my case studies, my decks, my media relationships, the ones I'd spent years cultivating. I found emails forwarded with my formatting, catchphrases lifted straight from my strategy memos. One press release she sent was a direct copy of mine from 2021, down to the sentence structure and taglines. And no one questioned it. Why would they? Michael vouched for her. He gave her my signature and called it mentorship. So I started documenting everything. Screenshots, metadata, timestamps. I made folders within folders, built timelines. I even downloaded the AI-generated summaries of our old meetings to show side-by-side phrasing. They called me aggressive. She called herself proactive. Same behavior, different outcome. Then I made a burner email. I reached out to select clients anonymously, old contacts who had trusted me. I shared work samples, side-by-side comparisons of my original plans and Lily's rebranded plagiarisms. Some of them didn't care. Business is business. But some of them did. One of them, a legal tech firm I'd onboarded personally, had recently cut ties with Michael's consultancy. Quietly, but bitterly, I reached out, this time posing as a compliance consultant. Turned out, Lily had completely mishandled a licensing issue, misrepresented their product's eligibility for European data markets. They'd lost a 7-figure contract over it. And worse, she'd covered it up with falsified documentation. I slid them a folder of internal emails, proof that Lily had lied. Not just to them, but to regulators. 3 days later, they threatened to sue. Publicly. Michael fired her in a panic. There was no loyalty, no farewell post, no statement from the firm, just silence. But Lily, ever the survivor, posted her own version of the truth the next morning. A carefully filtered headshot, a vague caption. Hard decisions lead to healing. Grateful to be moving forward after bravely standing up to toxic female leadership. I read it twice. The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. Because that's when I knew this wasn't over. They were going to spin this. Lily would cast herself as the victim. Michael would call it an internal shake-up. I'd be painted, again, as the problem. The bitter ex-employee. The angry wife. The difficult woman who couldn't handle her own fall from grace. They had the PR machine, the network, the privilege. But what they didn't have anymore was control over the narrative. Because while they were writing statements, I was building a story, a real one. And this time, I wasn't sending it to clients. I was sending it to journalists. I reached out to a woman I'd once gotten into Forbes, a sharp, principled investigative reporter named Nia, who'd covered corporate sabotage cases before. I didn't tell her my name right away. I just gave her the bones. A consulting firm knowingly using falsified work, exploiting IP theft, deflecting responsibility onto women, and firing a junior employee when legal threats got too loud. She bit. I fed her the facts, the timeline, the emails, the internal documents. She asked smart questions, cross-referenced, dug deeper. I could feel the tension tightening, slowly, precisely, like a piano wire across Michael's perfect little empire. A week later, she called me directly. "I know it's you," she said. "Claire." I didn't deny it. I gave her the full story. Not the sanitized one. The real one. The betrayal. The theft. The character assassination. The way Lily was weaponized as a reflection of everything I'd built and then held up as my replacement. "How do you want this to end?" she asked. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want the truth. Publicly. On record. No edits." She agreed. The piece dropped on a Monday morning. By noon, it was trending on LinkedIn. By 4 p.m., Michael's firm had disabled comments on all platforms. 3 clients announced they were suspending partnerships. An internal memo leaked, Michael calling it a targeted smear campaign by a disgruntled former employee. But no one believed it, because the evidence spoke for itself, because I spoke for myself. No more whispering, no more waiting to be believed, no more letting someone else narrate my story. Michael tried calling me, twice. I didn't answer. Lily posted a cryptic Instagram story, a quote about rising stronger after betrayal. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But I wasn't done yet. There were still contracts to void, damages to quantify, clients to contact, and a new consultancy I was quietly building. Mine, under my name, already drawing interest from people who said, "We always knew it was you doing the real work." Because here's the thing about being erased. When you come back, you're unforgettable. And this time, no one else gets to hold the pen. I contacted a journalist I'd worked with years ago, someone who owed me a favor, a quiet favor, but a big one. She'd once called me the queen maker behind the curtain. Back then, it was flattery. Now it was ammunition. I pitched her the story I knew the world was ready to hear. The hidden women behind startup successes. I didn't lead with Michael. I didn't have to. I led with the pattern. How women build the foundation, shape the messaging, nurture the relationships, only to be replaced once their voices become inconvenient. Then I sent her everything, every draft, every case study, every email with my name stripped and Lily's typed over it, internal meeting notes, timestamp slides, voice memos of strategy calls where I laid the blueprint, and watched them build my house without me in it. Every file was a receipt, every calendar entry a ledger. She called me within 24 hours. Claire, this is scorched earth. No, I said. This is just sunlight. The article dropped the next week. Front page of a major business blog. Not some rage-fueled expose, but a well-researched, calmly devastating profile of the machine behind the man. And what happened when that machine stopped working for free. The response was instant. Michael's firm lost 4 clients in 3 days. The tech startup I had rescued from PR disaster posted a public statement thanking me by name. Comment sections started to fill with executives, assistants, junior staffers, all saying versions of the same thing. We always wondered where the real work was coming from. His LinkedIn endorsements disappeared one by one. Podcasts that had once featured him pulled episodes. A panel appearance was quietly cancelled. The network he'd coasted on, built on charm and borrowed credibility, collapsed like wet cardboard. But the final nail? That was personal. Michael's firm was hosting a pitch night for investors, a chance to recover, reset, rebrand. I heard about it through one of the interns I used to mentor. She didn't say much, just forwarded me the invite with a single sentence. He's unraveling. So I went. I dressed simply. No theatrics, no dramatic entrances, just a black suit, clean makeup, hair pulled back the way he used to like it when I ghost wrote his keynote speeches. I sat quietly in the back row. No one noticed me. He stepped up to the mic, and it was immediate. The stumble, the sweat, the hesitation. He was off script, literally. There was no Lily in the wings feeding him lines, no polished deck I designed, no warm-up email to prime the room. Just Michael, alone, and it showed. He started with a bland joke. It flopped, tried to pivot to numbers. Stumbled again. A chart was missing. He clicked through too fast, then too slow. At one point, he said, "We believe in authentic, transparent storytelling." And I nearly laughed out loud, because I was watching a man who once stole a voice, mine, and now stood paralyzed without it. When the Q&A came, the questions were brutal. What differentiates your strategy now? Can you clarify who led client communications during your major growth years? Do you have internal checks to prevent IP confusion going forward? I could see it in his eyes. The unraveling, the quiet panic. He wasn't just embarrassed, he was exposed. And still, he didn't see me. Not until the end. As the crowd dispersed, I stood, walked calmly toward the front. He caught me in his periphery and froze like I'd conjured a ghost. "Claire," he said, half a whisper, half a plea. I looked him dead in the eye and said nothing, just turned and walked away. The silence was deliberate, not vengeance, not cruelty, just the clean, satisfying sound of a chapter closing. He tried to call the next day, twice, voicemail, then a text. "Can we talk?" I blocked him, because there's nothing left to say when someone finally hears the echo of what they destroyed. He wanted me quiet. Now, he has exactly that. I didn't want to win. I wanted to be heard. There's a difference. Winning is about someone else losing. Hearing, truly being heard, is about reclaiming your name, your story, your space. After everything, I didn't go back to the world I left. I didn't rejoin the PR circuit or chase old clients who'd once ghosted me in Michael's shadow. I built something new. I launched my own boutique PR firm. Just me at first. Then 2 women I trusted. Then 5. Now we're a quiet force. No splashy ads, no over-polished branding. Just work that speaks for itself. Work that elevates women the way no one ever did for me. We focus exclusively on women-owned startups, founders who were overlooked, underestimated, or made to feel too much, too loud, too opinionated, too direct. I help them refine their voice, not dim it. I teach them what I had to learn the hard way. Your voice is a weapon. Guard it, sharpen it, use it wisely, and most of all, never apologize for having one. I did it all in my name this time. No ghostwriting behind someone else's curtain. No strategic invisibility. No more lending my power to men who couldn't handle the cost of giving credit. The irony, the article that exposed Michael is still archived online, linked in think pieces about gendered erasure in startups. His firm never quite recovered. Lily did one more performative TEDx talk and faded into brand consulting for lifestyle influencers. I haven't heard her name in a year, and I haven't spoken theirs aloud since, not out of fear, not even anger, but because they taught me something. Silence isn't weakness, silence is strategy. And when used right, silence terrifies people. It forces them to sit with the space you leave behind, the echo of your absence, the truth they try to rewrite and fail to control. I don't explain myself anymore, not to people who already decided I was the villain in their story, not to clients who want a mouthpiece instead of a partner, not to men who see female competence as a threat they need to manage. I stopped defending myself and started defining myself. Now, I pick my clients carefully. I look for women who are ready to stop shrinking, to stop softening, to stop turning themselves down just to be tolerated. And I tell them the same thing I tell myself every morning. Your story is your power. Speak it, shape it, own it. There's nothing more dangerous than a woman with a clear voice, and nothing more satisfying than using it on her own terms. So no, I didn't win. I walked away, and I wrote the ending myself. People cheer, retweet, move on. They love a spectacle, not a story. And I didn't want a spectacle. I wanted something that would last. I wanted the silence after the explosion, the ringing in their ears, the unease in their chest when they realized I'd already moved on while they were still trying to explain what happened. Because silence echoes. It lingers. It haunts. It makes people wonder how much you know, how far you're willing to go, how many strings you've already pulled without ever raising your voice. Michael still doesn't know everything I uncovered. He doesn't know what I kept, what I held back, what I was willing to let go, and what I wasn't. And that's the real beauty of revenge. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be dramatic or messy or public. It just has to be true. And it has to last. He sees my name now, on panels, in bylines, next to women he'll never work with again. And he knows exactly what he lost. But he'll never know how deep the loss goes. That's the part I keep for myself. The part that whispers, I didn't need to burn your house down. I just turned off the lights and walked out. Oh, my name is Claire Monroe. I'm 32 years old. And silence was my loudest weapon.